Now that we have our think right complete, let us go after our purpose, our aim in this lesson and the activity herein. But let's first start with words from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He taught us that the first law of the universe is motion. He also taught that time is motion calculated. So when you calculate motion, you are calculating time. Now, further along in this course, we will do more detailed calculations of motion. But in this activity, we are going to begin with this target. We're going to learn about pendulums so that we can practice calculating motion. And you'll know you're on target when you can explain how mass, length, and starting height affect the period of a pendulum. And so we begin our lab by first setting up our notebook. And so let's take a look at that now. So on page 12, we have our Think Right that you've completed. And so our setup for the lab begins on page 13. And we take a look at this page 13 of our interactive science notebook. Go ahead and write Pendulum Lab. Go ahead and pause the video so that you can have this copied down. I'll show you how I have it set up though. Part 1, we're going to be dealing with the question of how does mass affect, the mass of the pendulum affect its period. We'll explain what the word period means in terms of a pendulum when we get ready to begin the lab. You will start each part, and this is part 1, with a hypothesis. And you will write your hypothesis right here in this section. We'll talk more about that later. When you do part 1, you are going to be recording the number of swings with one sinker and or washer attached to the pendulum. And so we're going to be making pendulums. And there's a lot of different ways we can make them. We're going to use some very simple materials, and we're going to set up some type of pendulum. All it is basically a string that is hanging down with something hanging on it that can swing back and forth. That's it. That's all it is. So we're going to be using either washers or sinkers, and we're going to be counting how many swings occur during a given time. And when we talk about a swing, we're talking about a full swing away and toward, or left and right would count as 1. So one whole cycle, either left to right or back to forth, that would count as 1 swing for the purpose of this lab. And at the end of part 1, this is the center hole punch. So the top half, draw a line where you're going to have the question for part 1, your hypothesis, which you're going to record. And then the bottom half, you will have a conclusion. There is a lab guide that you have available to download that will just walk you step by step through each part. So this is the notebook set up for page 13. We go to page 14. And we have part 2. How does the length of the period affect, how does the length of the pendulum affect its period? Again, you'll write a hypothesis. In part 2, you're also going to be making a table. And what I did for this page, before you even get ready to start copying, is I divided it into thirds. The way you do that in this size college rule notebook is you simply count 11 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You draw a line and you count another 11 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then you draw a line, and that gives you 11 lines on the bottom third of the page. So you're going to copy down this question. You're going to leave space here for hypothesis. You're going to copy this table of string length versus number of swings. This will be measured in centimeters. you'll go 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, and 25. And on the bottom third, we'll be making a graph using the information that we collect in our table and also using our notes that we have on making graphs. And then there'll be some guidance in the handout as well, the lab guide. Now, in addition to this, more than likely, matter of fact, for sure, you're going to need one more piece of paper, and you can just have that available. You're going to write conclusion part 2 upon it, and you're not going to attach it just yet. I'm just attaching it as a what? Extender sheet, because this is where we're going to want it to be attached when it's complete, but it's easier to go ahead and write your conclusion, then attach it. So you can have this piece of paper ready, maybe just lay it down for now in your notebook until you're done with it, and then you can attach it to page 14. So that's your setup for page 14. Page 15 looks like this. Part 3, our third question, how does the starting height of the pendulum affect its period? So there's your question there. Again, room for a hypothesis. This page is divided top and bottom, top half, bottom half, center hole punch, draw a line. Here for your hypothesis, so you leave your space, and you're going to be gathering information on the number of swings from a starting height of 60 centimeters. Again, we'll explain all of this while you're doing your activity or the lab, and the number of swings from a starting height of 30 centimeters. That's the data you will collect. And then there's a part 3. Bottom half will be a conclusion again. And that will be your setup for page 15 of the Pendulum Lab. Then we go on to page 16. Page 16 is fairly simple as far as the setup goes. Pendulum Lab. This will be the page that will allow for our conclusion questions. And there are 7 questions. And so what I do in my notebook, my instructor notebook, I just write 1, I squiggle down to 7 to let me know that there should be 7 questions that are answered on that page. If for some reason you need more room, then you could certainly get another sheet of paper, complete it on another sheet, and then attach that to your notebook as an extender sheet. Page 17, also very simple setup, Pendulum Lab. This is where you're going to write your summary of the lab. And so once you have those pages set up, then you have your notebook set up, and we are ready to begin the lab.